to the Wilton Community School District regular board meeting, June 12, 2019, 5:30. The mission of the Wilton Community School District is to provide an education that encourages continual progress through the improvement of one's abilities, expansion of one's interests and knowledge, and growth of one's character. Joy, please, roll call to order.
Linda Duncan.
Here.
Tony Hurd.
Here.
Gary Maurer.
Here.
Rob Metzger. Tara Oing.
Here. Thank you, Joy. Agenda approval. Any additions, changes, or corrections? Mr. Burnett.
None.
All righty. Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's do the minutes approval. The regular meeting for May 8th first, please. Motion to approve the May 8th board meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Secondly, let's do the May 22nd work session.
Move to approve the May 22nd work session.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Lastly, the May 22nd special meeting.
Move to approve the May 22nd special meeting.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next, we have Mr. Meyer, Public Forum.
Yeah, he's here to go over a lot of the program evaluations and recap of the school year. So thank you, Mr. Meyer, for coming
State of
tonight.
the Beaver.
That's right.
Yay!
I forgot to include this in all the paperwork that Joy shared with you guys.
You're good at that.
You don't want one? Okay. So, and I will send this to you electronically so you can keep that in your file however you want to. But everything that's on this sheet constitutes our 5 main goal areas with the district, and then all of the kind of subcomponents underneath of how, in the blue, the elementary is meeting that requirement, and in the black, how the high school is meeting that requirement. And we've looked at it from kind of like a now perspective, but kind of looking forward, because you'll see dates like 2020 on there and 2024 on there with that thing. So the elementary, with their big focus this year going forward is that we're adopting a new reading series that mirrors our writing series, the Lucy Calkin series. It's kind of a workshop model. So we've already had 1 day of PD with that. I think there's one in August, September, might be the one, or January, might be after that. So that'll be a lot of the work that goes on at the elementary level. The high school is going to continue on with AIW. We're going to actually use the first semester of this year to do task scoring. So if you think about tasks as activities that the instructors are asking the kids to do, we spent time the latter part of the year bolstering that for our staff. So the kids are getting more high quality experiences with lessons that are going on. The next component that we'll go into is actually instruction. It'll be a little weird because teachers hate recording themselves, kind of like you guys watching yourselves. You know, do I sound like that? Do I look like that? So we've got some GoPro cameras that the teachers will be able to use, and they'll be able to actually carry them around with them, because it's about getting kids to have more substantive conversations. And then the idea is to get, how can you get the value beyond school? How can we take this away from just being a classroom assignment to what does that mean when I go out there and do that? I don't know if there was anything else that was major on there. We updated some of our PDAR letters on there as far as we're not in some of the planning stages like AAW. We've moved beyond that. So we moved in more to the D and the A and the R side with that. I'm not sure which sheet Joy would have next for you guys. But is it fast scores? Is it all in one big document?
It's all one big document.
One big document. Oh, gosh, I forget which one I put on top.
Program evaluation.
Program evaluation was at the high school?
Professional development.
Professional development. Elementary.
Elementary, okay. So the PD evaluations this year are just a little bit different than in the past, because a big part of our program evaluation is we always have that Iowa assessment component. because not only is that a year to year we can look at scores, but we can look at it from a national perspective or a much larger pool with that. Well, with Iowa rolling into a new testing, the ISASPA this year, we're basically 18 months away from data. From the last time we test till we'll get our data back this fall, there'll be an 18-month spread in there. Just kind of the way it works, unfortunately. So most of the data that you'll see on both of these from the elementary and the junior high are more just what we have here in building kind of data. When you look at the elementary, the FAST scores are on there, and I'll talk about those in a separate one. The I-block data, and I want to point out the I-block data, and that's something that when FAST and Iowa's literacy law first rolled out was this idea that you have to intervene with kids when they're not proficient. And you could have looked at that from two ways. We can just intervene with the kids that are not proficient, challenging because now what are you doing with those other kids? Or we're intervening with all of them. We're intervening with all of them at different levels though. We use the 95% screeners, and it's got 16 different levels that we place kids phonetically through what they believe is the stepping stones to being a reader. We have a large majority of our kids that end up being in our I forget the title of it now, but they've tested out. So they're in like enrichment groups. So they get a chance to do things that are different than what maybe the other kids are doing as opposed to that. But I want you guys, what I want to really draw your attention to is when you look at the first cycle and you see the two numbers there, like kindergarten's 100%, and then it says 68. The 100% is when the kids got tested at their level they were at. So whichever level they were at, 100% of those kids were proficient. 68% were proficient at what would have been considered the benchmark for that. So I'm going to just throw a number out there. Let's say that was level 3. 68% of them. But there were kids that were proficient at level 2 and level 1, and that's why it was 100%.
Okay.
So if you start going to the right, we want to see that second number get a lot closer to 100% because that means kids are getting close to what would be considered benchmark for that grade or that age. So if you start going to the right and then going down in the quadrant, and I apologize, it goes to the next page, you'll notice that we go from 60% to 80% in first grade, 53, 73, 86, and then our last two grades are 98 and 97. So as much as I'd love to say reading improvement is just like that, and every kid does that, it's a process that it takes kids to get through to do that. The second thing you'll notice on that page is the BVSD screener that we did with kids. And these were individual interviews, I guess, basically, if you want to just narrow it down to that. Every kid got asked 6 different math questions. It was myself, Tammy Place, Jane Owens, and the classroom teacher. There were 4 of us that were in the room, and we would pull the kids aside, and they would model for us how they'd solve that problem. We'd write down their language, what they were saying, how they would do that, and then they got scored based on what a kid would say or how a kid would score on that. And you'll notice as we go to the right again, we see some growth, but we tend to kind of fall apart a little bit as the kids get older. I don't know if that's a product of kids are missing content, and that just compounds itself over the years because I miss in first grade, and I miss a little bit in second grade, and I miss in third grade, or what that is. On the bottom there, you'll notice some of our indicators of performance. The FAST scores, the 95% BVSD, ISASPA was unknown, and then the MRA, which is measurable results assessment from Leader and me. The 3 lowest areas that I know that they're working on are student leadership, student engagement, and then the student-led achievement. So there's a lot of different things that are going on at the elementary. The high school piece of that, again, we're missing out on ISASPA scores, and the big focus for PD at the high school is AIW. The first part of the year, we did a little bit of a book study to kind of bide some of that time as we trained 2 pilot teams with that. But after we got to January, minus the snow days, and a lot of them seem to fall on Wednesdays for us with that. So you'll notice there were 10 themes or ideas that we assessed them on in September and then in April. And you'll notice we're seeing good growth with that. I will tell you, and I won't name any names, but our most hardened critic of PD in our high school loved AIW. The best thing that this person had ever had in their 20-plus year career.
Well, good.
I think it's one of the first times, and I sat in with the group, and I know Mr. Snavely walked around, but I would say it's probably one of the first times some of them actually talked professionally like that.
Great.
About content. And we purposely made sure the science teachers weren't all together and math teachers weren't all together. That way they couldn't all just assume they knew all that stuff. They had to ask questions about things, and they had to rate and score things. And there's a set rubric for that. So I feel like there's good things going on with that.
Taiwan.
Title I, that's pretty standard. New Title I teacher this year, Miss Willie. Had 45 students this year, and one of her goals was to have 30% of her kids exit out of Title I, no longer need her services. So she far surpassed that. She's also involved with our iBlock with that. She does a great job, I think, and I think she's a great addition to the staff. And next?
Fast.
All right. So our FAST scores, I want to highlight just two numbers on here. And one of them you'll probably question why I'm highlighting that, but second grade in the spring, 65% were proficient. The reason I bring that up is if you follow them back to the left, you'll notice they were 53% proficient in the fall. This was actually a group, their kindergarten year in the winter, they were 90% proficient. And every year, or not every testing window after that, they slowly had gone down. Their first grade year in the spring, they were 66%. It was too late for us to do anything because that's late May. So when their score came back 53%, we all of a sudden got Mrs. Place together with the teachers, and we put in what was called a press activity. It was a duet reading with the kids. It was a 5-minute read that they read with the department. They read every other word, so they were focusing on fluency and paying attention with that. And I won't say that that's the only factor that helped, but it significantly helped. And if you look at the third grade scores, it got them close back to where they're at for third grade. The other one that I'll point out there is our building average is 72%. We're still on probably the upper 20% around the state when you look at numbers for that. Now, this is all based off of can you read fast? And reading is really about meaning. Okay, now where the rub comes with that is you can't read too slow that it takes you too long to get through things. Imagine when you get to biology class with Mr. Hewitt, or if you're in physics class and you've got to chew through some materials, it can't be really slow reading with that. It is the meaning that we're after there with that. So, and I assume the last one then is all of the classroom data,
Yes.
equity data. So what I really want to point out in here is not again that our shop numbers, our industrial tech numbers are very girl light with that. I think that's kind of a uniform thing around the state. I'd love to have ideas how to get more girls to do that kind of stuff. But what I want to draw your attention to is, and I know you, for me it starts on page 2, goes through 3. In Algebra 1, we have more girls than boys in Algebra 1. Trigonometry, pre-calc, financial algebra and calculus, and MCC stats. All of our high-level math classes actually have more females registered for the next year than males. That was the inverse several years ago.
Yeah.
So, I think we're getting kids that want to do those things and take some of those numbers with that. So, we're not seeing as high numbers that go to our FCS classes in Durant and art. We need to figure out why. I know there was a survey sent out with that, so we'll be looking through those results. To get kids, we need to get them on the bus to get them over there. And I think Durant has kind of the same issue with getting kids to come this way as well. So I think that. So any questions on all that kind of stuff? The beaver is good.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Mr. Meyer, great work.
Yes, thank you. Very interesting.
You got, and I'll send that other one to you guys electronically so you guys have access to that.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving along, we will go to our favorite person, Stacy, please.
Taxation fund reports, upload number 6. Looking at the general fund, just a reminder that we do 3 payrolls in June. We have our regular June 20th payroll, and then I pay off all the fiscal year contracts for 12-month employees that just work during the school year at the last workday in June. So there'll be a lot of salaries and benefits coming out for the month of June. Any questions or comments on any of the taxation funds? Okay. Upload number 7 is the instructional support levy program. The revenues through May at the top, with our budget in the middle of the first page. Followed by expenditures to date, and the remaining budget at the bottom. That will all be spent, the remaining budget will all be spent this month. ECC bill that we have at the end of the month building, or end of the month board meeting will be large. And we still have some outstanding textbooks, so I'll get spent. Any questions or comments on that? Is there a way we can upload that now, Joy? From there, no? Latchkey is next, and the usage at the top, the total program usage went up, mostly due to casual. She been purchasing a few things for the summer program, so her monthly expenditures are a little higher than the revenues, but we knew that, and her ending balance in May is still higher than the beginning balance for the fiscal year. So the program's doing well in May. I believe they have 50-some kids in the summer program. So, any questions or comments? And the next report is the latchkey expenditures other than payroll, how they spent their money for the month of May. And upload number 10 is the nutrition fund program. The first page has the school year lunch program usage and breakfast. And that's through May, so we did have a couple days in June, so that will change slightly on the June report. And the financials are on the second page. And again, her balance is large, and she has been spending some money, and we should have some more bills this month, but she also will have, out of the nutrition fund, will have 3 months of payroll to pay off in June also. Any questions or comments? Her period vendor report is next. So everything but payroll expenses on there. You can see she bought some new tables, chairs, stools for the cafeteria. Then we have the activity fund report. And there are several negatives, most we've talked about before. There will be no negatives at the end of June report, but the musical drama, of course, they've already purchased some things for the musical next year, and I'm guessing, we haven't officially talked about it, but we'll probably transfer from drama speech to the musical drama to zero that out at the end of the year. Elementary vocal, that's because of supervision that we pay for, and that will come out of junior, senior vocal. Boys track and girls track, we will have to talk to Mr. Snavely how we're going to rectify that here by the end of the month for June. Robotics club, generally take that from the fair canteen. And actually robotics, Mr. Snavely asked Townsend Fund for some money for robotics for next year, so that shouldn't be a problem for fiscal year 20, because they authorized that. So that was a good request. FFA, we'll have to do some transferring from the farm account to cover FFA and activity fund at the end of June. And then summer canteen is only negative for all the startup. It will not be negative by the end of June. Well, hopefully not. They cancel lots of games. And then the next page, we have the FFA Enterprise Fund. You can see overall FFA is positive for $12,000, but there's several negatives within that, with the farm being the big moneymaker. So farm will have to cover the hogs and the sheep and the poultry, and then also transfer over to FFA by the end of June. And then our flex spending and the agency fund, which were the accounts that Joy does the accounting for, but we do not technically own the money. Any questions or comments? Then the next upload are all the period vendor reports for the funds we just reviewed there. How the money was spent in the month of May. Any questions or comments? Upload number 14 is the co-curricular driving. So the end of the track, golf, and beginning of baseball, softball. Large report with all the classroom trips that were taken in May and the beginning of June, with the driver summary on the second page. Any questions or comments? Next, on upload number 15, we have the extra payroll. Everything is pretty much status quo there, except for one time a year at the end of the year, Denise submits the superstart leaders, supervisors, for a one-time annual stipend, and then Mr. Meyer submitted the info for the K-4 Social Studies professional development that they're taking this month before payday to come out of the teacher quality funds. Any questions or comments? And then number 16 is the board bills. I think the first 8 pages are all general fund, which there is a large amount of purchases on our BMO MasterCard 2231. And today I was just notified of all the BMO MasterCard purchases that we've had this last year. Our rebate for fiscal year 19 is just a little over $10,000. So it's the highest that we've had. So I've been encouraging them to using the credit card to get the rebate, and it's paying off. So that just goes back in as miscellaneous income into the general fund and helps pay bills. So
Great.
So I think we charged a little around $650,000 this last year on the credit cards, and then that's our rebate. So that's the purpose. That whole program was set up for schools to use a credit card and get a rebate. And then we have a couple of management fund expenditures on the bottom of page 8. We had a truck mirror that had to be repaired for an insurance claim, and then the baseball field fence that got the wind damage. That repair, so we have our $1,000 deductible for that. There's also was damage to the windscreen on the softball field, and that is also being replaced, all as part of the same claim. So you should see that at our special meeting on June 26th. I think the cost of that was around $600 with shipping. And then we have some claims for 1-cent sales tax out of our regular 1-cent sales tax pot, Fund 33, and then 34, which is our building projects, where I put the multi-purpose building and the observatory. And then on July 1st, which has to come out of our fiscal year 19 budget, out of June would be our revenue bond, principal payment, and interest payment. And pay agent fee out of, we pay it out of the debt service, but all the money comes out of the revenue. 1-cent sales tax. So it's all transferred to debt to cover that. So any questions on any of those? And the self-insurance fund report is missing, so we'll just do that at our June 26th meeting for May. So, share that then.
Okay.
Move to approve the bills.
Second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Stacy. On to administrative reports. Mrs. Austin, please.
I will start with the handbook. And it might be just as easy for me to show you visually because I don't have any changes at all. The main ones truly are just cleanup language. Under health screening, you see in red, we took that whole thing out because the majority of those things the parents do now anyway, because of state law. So we still screen them for vision, but other than that, well, actually, we don't even do that. Only if they ask us to, and then usually we either refer on or not, but it's not a regular part of it, because they have to have all those checks now. So we took that out. On the second communicable disease chart, we changed per state direction. Lice, we used to send kids home for lice, and we don't do that anymore. And so that's just an update in our handbook. They're treated here at school, and we call the parents. Well, and then we treat them, and send them back to class once they're treated. So, yes, and then the only other change that isn't dates or an update is under the 5th and 6th grade dress code. We had kind of a duplicate and kind of some, I thought, really open-ended language, so we just took it out, because really everything's covered in the top, paragraph even. And the rest of that, the changes in red are simply dates, just updates. And that's the handbook changes. Outstanding attendance and perfect attendance, we honored 13 students at the end of the year at our assembly for their attendance. Our attendance at the elementary is just really, really good. They work very hard, and I'm very proud of them. Specialty sponsors the program, and so we appreciate that. And then the only other thing I guess I will highlight is that my last note there is we worked really hard. It was awesome to have these last, usually the kids get out of school one day and then we have one day to wrap up. Well, this year we had longer than that. And it really was very awesome to me. Because we got all kinds of things wrapped up and previewed for next year. It was just super. We did a book study called What You Say and How You Say It Matters. All of our associates and then all of our teachers who work in the reading PD. And it was very eye-opening, and we had a lot of our reading teachers now request that book because even the associates talked about it so positively. So that was awesome. And then the other major thing we really got hammered out were the kids' leadership notebooks that we're going to start next year. And at the work session, I'll try to go more in depth about that. But we've decided on 5 tabs and what we want those tabs to look like. And I really think when Mr. Meyer talked about that MRA, a lot of our kids want more leadership and they don't know a thing about goal setting. So I think this will really address, and with that information, we were able to kind of streamline this into what we needed for our leadership notebooks. So it'll be a start. It'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Boston. All right, Mr. Snavely.
I'll go over my reports and then go over handbook changes so it comes up in the consent agenda. You just know what you're approving, I guess. So as far as my junior, senior high board report, just a lot of end of the year stuff. As far as professional development, Ms. Austin just talked about, we also did the book study with our group. We did it actually with all parents and teachers. They were given the morning to read a section and then we jigsawed it. So they came back in the afternoon and they had to do a presentation with the whole group. We finished up our individual professional development plans. We set the stage next year for AIW. It was kind of nice to have the extra days. And I actually liked going to school a little later because it gave me a little more time to get all the evaluations done. And instead of scrambling, it was a little bit easier, I guess. But most people wouldn't say that. But anyway, so the end of the year was very, very effective as far as using our time and getting ready for next year. We did start our Edgenuity program on Monday of this week. We have between 6 and 9 students that are consistently on it. We're still trying to figure out exactly who's going to come on board and be consistent all summer. So we have the 6 licenses, and Mr. Myers overseeing that right across the hall, and we have students in and out trying to recover some of their credits. So that's off and running, going very well there. As far as my junior senior high report, I've listed some of the things that happened at the end of the year. We did say goodbye to a couple people as far as moving on and new hires for next year coming on board. And we did have one retirement in Judy Rathjen. So it's always hard to let those people go, but they're on to different places and things like that. So any questions about that? And then I'll get into the athletic report and then I'll go into the handbooks. All right. Well, I just did a wrap up in my athletic report with the spring sports and just kind of let you know where we ended with golf and track. So let me know if you have questions there. We did host some postseason events, which was really nice. Baseball and softball is in full swing. We're running into a little bit of issue with rain right now. I dealt with that 2 or 3 hours today, just trying to reschedule and delay and all that stuff going on. So our baseball team obviously is ranked #1 as far as varsity, 10-0. I listed all the records for all the different levels for baseball, softball. Softball is also doing very well at all 3 levels. So we had the cancer night on Tuesday night. It went over very well. We had a lot of people here. I know some of you guys were probably in attendance. So the summer workouts, I did put a paragraph in there about that. We went from about, I think I listed about 40 students last year to about 100, and I think our number is 118 right now.
120, I think I got.
120, okay. So we have several groups coming in, training with Kevin Welch in the mornings in the junior high gym. So that's going well. Our high school gym's closed down. If you get a chance, the mural is about 4 hours away from being done down there. So next week we'll start the floors. We got the mats, the wall mats down. They're ready to put up new ones. And so it's going to look a little different when you come back in the fall, but that's in progress right now. So the all-purpose facility, I had a lot of people ask me about that throughout the week. We're working on getting plumbing done, cement poured. I have the netting company coming in next week to start looking at that. So we hope that's fully functional by fall. That's kind of the goal, as long as the rain stays away and keeps us moving forward that way. So lots of great things happening. Summer's off and running. We're in the middle of June already, and pairings will be coming out pretty soon, and we'll know what's going on as far as baseball and softball this summer. So any questions about athletics? Comments? Okay, so in the uploads with your board packet this week, I did, hopefully you can see all those, I did include the course descriptions. Mr. Patterson really puts this document together. Really the only changes to that have to do with the classes we added and the requirements, and then the financial literacy description was added in there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because it's going to come up in my handbook. So that's the next item. I just don't want to say it twice, so it's all going to come up here. So I'm just going to take you through the changes really quick. I did highlight them in blue, so you know what was changed, and I'll just explain those really quick as I go through that. So as far as the junior, senior high parent-student handbook, the first change comes on page 4. We added psychology and sociology as options under the 3 years of social studies that students can take as juniors and seniors. We did add, as required by the state, a semester of financial literacy, and students can take financial lit that Mr. Goss is going to be teaching new next year, economics or financial algebra, so they meet the requirement. So really, our elective credits, we kept them at 11, so they still equal the 26 credits. So I think they were at 11 and a half before, so we wanted to keep it at 26, so we just bumped it with that 1 semester class extra requirement for financial lit. So that's really it as far as graduation requirements that we changed. So that was page 4, you see that all in blue. Page 6, under post-secondary enrollment opportunities, we added a number 6, and basically we said if a student receives a D or F in an MCC course, he or she is no longer allowed to take MCC courses. We have some students that probably shouldn't be taking some of these classes that are failing it. The district's paying for it, and it's just going to give us some grounds to make sure that when students enter those classes that they're ready. You got to remember, if they fail a class, that goes on their transcript.
What upload are we on?
What's that?
What upload are we on?
Upload
Junior, senior high handbook.
23, right? 23?
Oh, okay, all right.
It's
Okay, got it.
It has
Yeah,
something
yeah.
on the front, it didn't say handbook, it had mission statement on the top.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay, sorry.
the cover will actually say junior, senior high handbook. I just don't have
Linda's
it.
right, it says mission statement.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a 38-page document.
okay.
Okay, so that's really something we added for that. We don't take the MCC courses as part of our eligibility, just because we don't get those grades from the college because they're confidential.
Right.
So usually by the time we post them, it's past our deadline. So this was kind of our statement of keeping that in check. Moving ahead, page 12 is the next piece I added. And this has to do with attendance. And we have issues like a lot of schools with students that have excessive absences, whether they're called in by their parents or not. When students have excessive absences, it equates to poor grades. The two go hand in hand. So in our current handbook, it basically has us intervening at 20 days and 20 days. So basically, when a student reaches 20 days of absence, okay, we call that excess. I changed, you can see where I said, it says 10 and 15, okay? Before it was 20 and 20. So what we're doing is we're going at 10 days, we're gonna notify parents. Okay, we're gonna give them a heads up that, okay, we have an attendance issue, okay? So they're gonna get that communication from the school. And then at 15 days, we'll get into the meeting, and then eventually we go to the county attorney with this, and then they intervene at different levels. So we're just moving everything up to get early intervention with parents and get that meeting set a little sooner. So, and there's truancy laws that students have to be in school. Okay? Moving ahead, all the way to page 17, I added some language about plagiarism. There was absolutely nothing in this handbook regarding plagiarism. It's usually in the syllabus by the teachers. We have had a few issues with that this year, which is hence why I added it in there. So just some language about that. That'll be something that when I pull all the students in at the beginning of the year, I'll talk to them about that. And we as a staff have to teach our kids how not to plagiarize too. So that'll be something that I'll have to talk to staff about as well. And what is plagiarism? How can we, as a staff, come together and make sure we're teaching students the right way to do things and things like that. So that's that. On page 21, I added a paragraph that has to do with having law enforcement on grounds to do searches for illegal substances. So school districts can do that. I've been a part of several of those where you bring in the drug dogs and you do searches. So that just puts some language in the handbook to allow us to do that. Not that we need it in here because we can legally do it by law, but it lets the parents know that, hey, we're likely going to do this moving forward. So, and then on page 24, we added, Mr. Dutcher and I got together and added this statement in here just about, we've had some issues in our parking lot, and we just cleared up the language that your parking privileges could be revoked if you don't comply with the rules as far as driving on school property. So we had a little bit of language in there, but we wanted to spell it out just a little bit clearer. Again, most of the time when you have handbook changes, it's sparked by something that's happened or some things that happened that we're trying to clean up on our end. And that's why a policy is always changing. Moving ahead, I'm going to take you to page 31. Previously in the handbook, it had NovaNet, which was our previous credit recovery system. I just added language about Edgenuity, who can take those courses, why we offer those courses, those types of things. So that's added. On page 32, we added in, now that we have show choir, we added in that under vocal instrumental music as an option for students. I also noticed Spanish club wasn't in there, so I added that in there. And they're getting ready for a trip next summer. And then the big one is on page 32 and 33. I know I mentioned this to you in planning, but our academic eligibility over the course of my 2 years has been kind of a work in progress, and it's a little bit messy. And so I met with head coaches on several occasions this spring, and we are going to clean it up. And we believe that the way the policy is now is going to clean things up. So basically what it comes down to is right now we're doing midterm checks, and what happens is we deem a student ineligible at the midterm for a week. The problem is a teacher may not have a grade that comes through within that week, so the kid's still ineligible. Or they don't let the office know, and then all of a sudden we have a kid that's on a bus going to Iowa City, Regina. I'm getting a call by the coach, hey, this student said he turned it in. I'm trying to track the teacher down at 8 o'clock at night, or maybe it's not that late, but you get the point. If it's basketball season, it certainly is that late. It's just messy because there's a lot of communication that happens. So this is what we came up with. Basically, we're going to do at the end of a quarter, like, so we start off the school year, at the end of the first quarter, we run our grades like we always do, and that's our check. Junior high students will be ineligible for 15 days, as well as high school students, okay? That's easy, we don't have any midterm. At semester, we have to follow the state law of 30 days. Okay, for junior high, we're gonna make it 15 days. Third quarter, again, is 15 days for both. Fourth quarter, we have to follow the 30-day for high school, 15 days. So we're doing a check at the end of the quarter, and it's gonna be really seamless. It's gonna be cut and dry. We'll have to communicate this out to parents, students. Really, it's just gonna make it so it's easier to figure out. We did change it last year, because junior high was really messy, so we did make it, a little bit more seamless last year, but this is just gonna clean things up. So every quarter we do a check, it's either 15 or 30 days. Junior high is always gonna be 15, high school is always gonna be either 15 or 30, depending on whether it's quarter or semester. So, questions about that? Because really, we don't have to have, all we really have to follow is for high school to do the 30 days. That's all, this is just our policy, because we want to do checks along the way to keep students eligible, because they're here to learn and gain an education, not participate in athletics. Academics should come first. So that's really the language behind all that. And then on page 34, in the good conduct rules, I added one thing. And on the third offense, if a student gets in trouble and it's their third offense, they're out 1 calendar year according to our policy. I added a student may be required, because right now it says a student is required. I'm going to give you an example of what could happen. We have a lot of good conducts around vaping. So if a student gets a third offense, good conduct for vaping, how can I set up counseling for that? For substance abuse, yes, there's counseling out there. For vaping, I don't know if I can get counseling set up. So that allows me to say, maybe that's not what we need here. It might be, but if it's alcohol, drugs, yes. Vaping, probably not. And that's where the majority of our good conducts are coming right now with vaping, either on school grounds or off school grounds. So that's really just a minor change, just to keep me out of having a situation where I don't have resources to set up counseling. So that is, in a nutshell, those are all the changes. Questions about that? Hopefully that's clear. And then the last thing is the athletic handbook. And I've worked closely with Coach Hessler, also our other coaches, as we wrote this, and just made some changes to it. So again, they're in blue. I don't know what item it is on your sheet, but you guys have that located before I start?
I think so.
So again, I'll just run through the changes really quick, as far as they're not quite as extensive. On page 7, team meals. We have a lot of teams that have their team meals down in the cafeteria, which is great. I would rather have them on campus than off campus. So that's a good thing. We're just not going to let them use kitchen utensils and things like that, because we had a situation where a lot of our school supplies are disappearing or not being cleaned and those kind of things. So they can use the room, they're just not going to be allowed to use the utensils. We updated and made it so Rock Valley Physical Therapy is our provider. That was never changed. And then on page 10, we have gymnasium procedures. We added in facility. The reason we did that is because of the outdoor facility. And then this, on page 11, we have a blue form that anybody that wants to use our facilities has to fill out. And we've run that the whole year. So if you guys are coaching, you know that you have to fill that out. So it has all of our guidelines as far as what goes on. And so we put it in this handbook, and basically it just talks about how our school sports have priority over maybe a 10U team. It talks about our concerts and plays and dances take precedence over, say, our 10U team. It talks about not being allowed to the gym until after practice hours, which is 5:30. Elementary gym would be 5. It talks about just if we want to cancel the the gym time that night because we let out of school early. It has this scheduling in 1.5-hour increments, the parameters on when you can reserve the gym, all those types of things. So you can see inclement weather's in there, key cards is all outlined. I'm not gonna read through all this, you guys can read that, but it talks about damages. And then on the back side of that, the staff member or whoever's reserving it has to sign that they're responsible for damages, and they put their time, and then these go to Mrs. Kramer, and that's how everything gets on the activity calendar. Example, I had a softball 10U coach call me about 1:30 and wanted to reserve the gym today. I directed them to the website, filled this form out, email it to us. I got the email, sent it to Jane. It was up by 2:30. That's how we handle that. So, Coach Hessler, myself, Jane will meet with all the people that reserve all of our facilities and go over this again in the fall, just to make, it's gonna be a little more complicated with the outdoor facility next year. So we kind of put all this in our coach's handbook as well. So that's all new to that. Moving ahead, we added robotics under student groups, whatever reason that wasn't ever added in there. And then,
Show choir in there?
I didn't put that because it's really not an athletic thing. It's
Okay.
more, it's really an extracurricular.
What, I'd say other vocal
Yeah.
instrument, music, and then you
Yeah, I probably shouldn't, you're right. I
show
probably
choir,
shouldn't
but
put that.
just because you added it on the other ones,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why.
I'll go back and add that before we,
Just,
that's why you guys get the final
yeah.
document. So I'll add that before it goes through. So if you look at page 17, that is our academic eligibility that meshes with the handbook. It's the exact same language.
Good.
So we have that in there. And then the good conduct rules, we'll have to, I didn't actually change that, but I will when I get back to my office tonight. So again, I put the word may in there just for that, so.
Okay.
So I'll add those two changes for the athletic handbook tonight. Is there anything else you guys have questions about or concerns about?
No,
Good work.
so, great. Yeah.
I'm busy with, as you can see, between the handbooks and Mr. Myers' program evaluations, the end of the year is definitely
Busy.
crazy, because we're just wrapping up and then also prepping for next year.
And then the last two things, I know I promised that I would make sure that you had access to our two schedules. So
Yes.
the junior high is the yellow label at the top, and the high school is the red. And just a couple things I want to highlight, just so you know what's going on here. The junior high schedule is a little complicated this year because we have those 25 or so extra students coming from 6th to 7th grade. And we added a teacher to kind of take care of the overflow there. What essentially we have is 3 sections of 7th grade, and then we wanted to have 3 sections of 8th grade, but we had a problem with our language arts and reading teachers. The kids weren't all matched up. So we basically have, in 8th grade, we have 2 sections of language arts and reading, but we have 3 sections for science. So at the end of the day, we were able to make all of our teachers happy. It took about 5 meetings to get there, but we have the numbers down to where we need to be. So we're in a good place. So it's a 1-year fix. We're gonna have to figure out how we can go 3 sections next year and get that all to work. But every year is kind of a, you gotta figure things out. So that's how that works. Ms. Pearson, our tech integrationist, is going to be teaching 1 section of World History 7 to keep those numbers down. She's also gonna be doing a keyboarding. And keyboarding, just so you know, keyboarding is not keyboarding. Like we went through keyboarding, it's a lot of digital citizenship and the tech tools with Google, and it's not just learning the keyboard.
We did.
That's infused and really should be taught beginning in the elementary and all the way up through. So I don't really like the word keyboarding, but just know that that's not just keyboarding. So that's really the curriculum changes as far as teaching. You'll see on the junior high schedule that Hannah Holdhouse is our new junior high teacher. You can see what she's teaching. Downs, Sarah Downs would be our new counselor. You can see she's teaching 7th grade guidance. So those are really the only changes on the junior high schedule. As far as the high school schedule, remember we have the career counselor added. So she is now teaching the MCC strategies for academic success. First semester to seniors. I think there's about 15 seniors in there. So that'll be new this year. Mr. Gast is teaching that financial literacy class, which is required now. Ms. Pearson is also teaching a life skills. She had to pick that up because Mr. Gast had to pick up financial lit. And then we are running 2 buses from Durant next year, so hopefully that'll help. We have to figure out how to get kids on the Durant bus. We can share all the classes in the world we want with Durant, and we're working on schedule changes for next year as we speak. You know, we might have some different schedule opportunities, but we've got to figure out a way to get students more involved, to take those classes, and vice versa with Durant to come over here, because we have lots of opportunities. But for some reason, and I did do a survey with all the students, and I've looked at that survey, but it doesn't tell me a lot as far as that goes. But we need to figure out, just continue to have these conversations with Durant as far as sharing opportunities, which we're having, but it's kind of a puzzle.
Yeah. No, that's our challenge to,
They just don't want to.
well, it has to be somewhat organic too, where it just grows and becomes the norm. We
Yes,
haven't been doing it
true.
that long, and
True.
And like Mr. Snavely said, we're gonna run 2 buses, one that starts each in the morning because we do like a swing right now. Okay, and that can be a challenge too, if kids are late or whatnot, we're here. You know, we'll have one leaving Wilton, one leaving Durant, and drop off, you know, and whatnot too. So we're hoping that'll help as well. But, I don't know, it's just interesting. We have a lot of kids that take the foods class, you know, and some of that too. And, you know, when the kids, even if it's something as simple as bringing the teachers back and forth, and when I say that, like in the beginning, let's say in the spring, have the Durant teachers that are shared come over here and introduce themselves to the kids and say, hey, here's the classes that I offer in Durant. You sign up, and vice versa.
Good idea.
You know, have our teachers that are in Wilton go over to Durant so they can at least put a name in the face, because, you know, if you don't know the teacher, knowing what they look like and what's the class offer, I'm not saying those are simple things, but they're not, it's not a cost, it's just a
Let's try.
develop a relationship.
Yeah, a really neat thing, we had that CT advisory meeting on the 31st of May, and we did have both Durant teachers, so Mary Feuerbach, she came, and so did their industrial tech teacher. He emailed me the night before and said, hey, do you mind if I come to that advisory meeting? We had 24 people in attendance for that meeting, so, you know, I didn't even know who either one of those teachers were when they walked in that morning, so that's, if I don't know who the people are, how do we?
We just gotta get them in front of the kids, you know.
So they're just listed on the schedule as Durant High School, those classes?
No.
FCS.
Yeah, I mean, they're,
Yeah,
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 food is, okay, pottery, okay.
and the students all know that those are Durant classes. Yeah.
Right.
Just because we don't have from here. Let's just continue to work on that.
Cool. All right.
All right, well, good work, it's a lot.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, moving on. We will do our consent agenda number 1.
No, we won't, there's
No,
nothing
we
on there,
won't.
we leave it on here in case something
We need
comes
to, all
up,
right,
but.
so we'll move to consent agenda number 2, policy.
Absolutely exciting. Looking through here, we follow all of our emergency plan numbers as far as the number that we have, fall and spring. We didn't have any Rocky Mountain spotted fever. If you look at some of the reported communicable diseases, it's interesting looking at all of them that are on there. Yellow fever, can't pronounce 2/3 of them. Yep. Toxic shock syndrome. So, but anyway, not to be flip,
Okay.
I have no tweaks, anything to add as far as something that's out of date or needing updated on there. But I'll certainly entertain any questions if you have them.
Motion to approve consent agenda number 2.
Sorry?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda number 3. Wow.
Yeah, several on here this month. I'll just go through these and take questions as we go. Some of them I've already gone over though with the principals, et cetera.
With the handbooks and stuff.
Letter A and B are similar as far as activity fees and registration fees. We are not changing them
Okay, you
from It's just
You're putting it in here.
we have
there's
to
no
approve it
changes.
each year,
Okay.
but there's no price increases.
Okay, for
Okay.
either one.
For
Okay.
either one, that being the case, there's really not a lot to discuss on,
Correct.
but feel that they're in a good spot. C and D are the handbook, and E are the elementary, junior, senior high, and athletic handbooks. Letter F, Stacy, letter F and G talks about the EMC insurance renewal. She meets with Nancy from White Pigeon. Is there anything you want to touch base on with that, Stacy?
Well, look at page,
It's 12
Yes.
pages.
page 2, where she does a comparison for us from current year to the renewal year. And actually, our overall premium on our basic insurance is going down because of work comp. And our work comp modification factor has been really high, and it actually did go down slightly. It went down from 1.39 to 1.25, but also the premiums for work comp decreased some. So that's the reason that we're saving money there. And then, so you have the entire renewal here if you choose to look through it, but that's a nice summary that I like that we get from her. And this bill will be in the July bills, because we do it for the appropriate fiscal year. And then if you go to download 29A, I just got this, and this is for, remember we added flood and earthquake insurance a couple of years ago, and that actually is the premium will be the $4,115, and that's up $119 from current year. So that will be in the July bills as well. And then we're still waiting on the cyber liability that you guys had approved. So that's another like extra to our basic plan that's in the summary on upload regular 29. So I'm still waiting for that renewal. And then equipment breakdown, insurance, I had some qualms about renewing that, so I talked to the person regarding that and told her some reasons why I wasn't sure I wanted to renew it, and today I got notification that they're willing to cut our premium by a third to get us to renew. So I'm working with Bo in the morning. He's gonna give me updates for our laptop, so we make sure we have that all right, and then I'll have that to bring to you at the June 26th meeting. So, but if they want to reduce our premium by a third, I definitely think we'll give it another shot for another year, but at the renewal rate they gave us, I said, I don't think I'm renewing.
Not to interrupt, but I'll add, a lot of this has to do with the end of year. So like right now, Riley Allen's working for us. He went through and we have breakage that happened at the elementary that has never been reported, that he's gonna give. I think that's what Bo's gonna talk to you about tomorrow.
Right,
And,
but we still won't be close to what we pay.
well,
Their
I
rate was way
understand
too
that.
high.
The junior, senior high, when they hand in, we had breakage there too,
Okay.
that needs to be claimed
Right.
as well, so.
Oh,
yeah.
it's on that,
Huh?
on the laptop.
Yeah, on the laptops,
Chromebooks
yeah.
and the, yeah. But they're actually gonna reduce the premium by 24,000, so they can also see that we're not coming even close to breaking it. So,
Unfortunately, it saves me a lot of money though.
it does.
Because
You know, the
without,
extended warranties.
without the extended warranties, then I have to go out and I have to buy the warranties. The Chromebook extended warranties was going to be almost $5,000 for the 150 that we're gonna buy. It's almost as much as buying another Chromebook.
Really?
So that's when schools decide whether or not they just buy a third more Chromebooks, store them, and then they don't worry about it, or we buy the insurance, so.
The equipment breakdown comes out of management fund, and then all those equipment repairs we would normally do would come out of general fund, so it does save the general fund money. By doing that, then when we get the money back for the parts, and they also pay for labor, like our IT department does all their own labor, and we get that, or if Joe Raggett fixes something, we can turn in his labor. That's actually also on the renewal going up from $35 an hour to $50 an hour reimbursement rate. So we get that back, and that all goes into the general fund. So I was, very pleased today when I saw that they were willing to decrease our renewal by $24,000. So I'll
Good
bring
job,
that to
Stacy.
you
Very good job.
next meeting.
Great.
Excellent. Our natural gas agreement with CenterPoint Energy. You can see the current pricing with mid-am and the current pricing versus iJump. And the recommendation, Stacy, you want to talk about that a little bit as far as
Well,
sticking with mid-am?
No, we're actually
Or do you
staying
wanna
with
stick with
CenterPoint.
Center?
CenterPoint Energy, if we were with Mid-America, we would have spent $7,100 more this last year. If
Okay,
we were with iJump, we would spend $8,200 more. So CenterPoint Energy right now continues to have the best program. So my recommendation is we stick with them and renew
Okay.
that contract.
perfect. Letter H is our agreement with Durant, with Mr. Miller's position, with the middle school band. I'd like to continue that. Letter I and J are our student-teacher cooperative agreements with St. Ambrose University of Iowa. We have them each year. Doesn't mean we'll have students from them, but if they have a student that comes out here, we've just got that in writing. Are there any questions on consent agenda number 3?
Move to approve consent agenda number 3.
Okay.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, individual.
If you remember last month, Justin was here, and we had him go back because there was some Chromebook information that came in after the due date
Yes.
with a bid, and he had it rebid, and you can see, I don't know, Justin, want to talk about it? You can see the bid breakdown with IT,
yeah,
Savvy,
it's-
Zones, and RTI.
Yeah, so out of the three, I got two rebids back. The third company had already factored in that the rebate was still gonna be there.
Okay.
They were trying to do that, so, as you can see, three companies, the lowest bid, went to IT Savvy at $46,165, versus $48,47.
Mhm.
So,
And this is for what, Justin?
this is for our Chromebooks, that,
For how many?
that would be 170 Chromebooks. That gives us a cushion of about 15 extra Chromebooks, 15, 20, so we have on hand. And that really does help, because then when the students bring them in and they're broke, we can repair them at our time, and we just assign them a different Chromebook at that time, so that we've got
How many?
Go down.
170. We only got, if you look at that bid, we only got 150 licenses, because those extras that we have for repairs don't need licenses. So, yeah, we lowered our license a little bit, but that's about it for
Are
that.
there any questions for Justin on that, or with that? Otherwise, we'd recommend IT Savvy at the 46,165.
So we need this one.
Individually.
Individually.
Yep.
Motion to approve IT Savvy for $46,165.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, auditorium sound system, yay.
Yeah, the good news is, through the Townsend Foundation, we're able to upgrade our auditorium, start over the entire sound system in there. And you can see the two bids, Justin and Mr. Snavely have been, worked on this primarily, and our music team. But with DB Acoustics and Top Notch Productions, the recommendation is to go with Top Notch Productions. The one thing that'll be a little different down there is they're actually going to take out a few of the seats. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we're gonna basically, and I was extremely surprised, actually excited, that both Nicole, Stevie, and Kylie wanted a platform where it did not move. So we're going to put a roll top, the last section of chairs that's there, the permanent chairs, we're gonna take out 4, and we're actually going to put a roll top desk in. And in that desk will be, it's locked, in that desk will be the sound mixer and the lighting. So that way, when they are doing production, the teacher can actually sit there
Nice.
and hear and see
Good.
everything.
That'll be great.
A lot of companies are doing where they carry around and we still can, but a lot of them are going around, that's what they do. They carry an iPad around and they do this and they do that, and our teachers absolutely did not want that. They like it for the when they're doing the setup and everything, but they do not want to do that during the production.
Wow, well, good, we're all on the
So,
same page, good.
But both companies definitely, I think, will, either one of them would have done an excellent job.
Okay.
So,
So is that gonna, having that full top, is that gonna impede the view of the people in the seats behind?
it should not. We kind of, we did where it was going to be placed, we did the sizing. In fact, luckily, when they planned that building, there's actually power and a piece of conduit that's not used right in the middle of that. We're just going to bring that over a little bit. So there's going to be a little bit of cost, but between us doing the labor and the electrician coming out, we're probably talking maybe $500 extra. But basically what they're going to do is they're going to move that from the center over, so that way it goes right up into the desk. So,
I think it's really gonna save the equipment, the more you get that
Oh,
equipment
yeah.
in and out, and if you've been to the productions, they're on a table sitting off to the left.
Yeah.
You know, we're just trying to get our sound
How
where
much
it needs to
money
be.
we spend on equipment and we're replacing it all, right?
Exactly.
yeah.
So what about that cord that goes across? Remember, we always have a carpet on top of it?
Yeah, that'll be gone.
So there'll be nothing.
There'll be nothing.
Exactly.
There should
It's
be
just,
nothing
it'll
there.
look professional,
Nice.
it'll keep it
So
safer.
they're gonna reuse our speakers. They're gonna actually, both companies, they're gonna come in and they're going to reposition them. So that way they be positioned correctly and.
I just find it pretty disappointing, the money we spent.
I
Up to
know.
this point and the results we've got.
Oh, yeah.
So, and both companies actually, I think Top Notch is a little bit closer than DB Acoustics, but they are, as far as later on, they're going to be a lot more accessible because they don't have to drive as far as the previous company.
It was like 5 hours away.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
and we got,
We
both,
paid
all
at the
companies,
time on the road. was
yeah, all
insane.
companies charge drive time.
Oh,
So the quicker they get here, the less money we spend for drive time, for sure.
good.
Are you gonna have more speakers back farther in the?
I know,
bleachers
actually,
or not?
they said both companies did the design, and all they have to do is reposition speakers.
Oh, really?
And the timing, I know that all three of the girls complained that there's always an echo.
Mhm.
They're gonna fix that as well. With the digital mix boards, you can do a timing delay on those, so that way, everything comes across as one uniform sound instead of that 1 second, third echo kind of thing going on, so yeah.
I know at graduation, they were complaining they couldn't hear, but Julie Sprague was, said she couldn't hear.
And that's some of
Yes.
the mixing volume and things like that, so that's kind of, and the other thing we're really going for is simplicity, so when Mrs. Austin or Mr. Snavely, when they come down and they want to turn the sound on, they don't have to look at this huge mixing board going, what do I do? The mixing board will be there, they'll hit it, on the digital boards, it's a preset, we'll just say guest or however, they hit it, it turns on the mics,
Great.
it turns on the thing, that's what they need, and they're good to go. So,
So I think we're gaining.
Yeah.
Yay,
Yeah.
finally,
Yeah.
good deal.
So, thank you to Townsend Foundation,
Yes.
Yes.
where that came from.
All right, so we need a motion to approve, I'm assuming
Top Notch.
Top Notch Productions.
Motion to approve top-notch productions for 41,866.55.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yay.
Yeah, just one thing on informational items, just a coaching position with Zach Etzel. Linda, do you want to talk about the pool board?
Pool board, our new director was hired for the pool as of June 1st.
Mhm.
We had our first board meeting last night. She's got a lot of good ideas, a lot of stuff going on. Allison helped her along with Paul Marquez, that was the CPO for the city, even though he worked for the telephone company, but he helped to get us through. I think we're there. Hot tub had issues. I think we finally got that kind of down, and that's up. Swimming lessons are going well. Durant is coming over, bringing a lot of stuff. We're probably gonna have a welcome or a community, everybody come and, you know,
Nice open
the
house.
new director, but when she, on her term, obviously, when she's
Yeah.
comfortable enough to do, yeah,
She said that.
a lot of social media. What?
Nothing.
Twitter and Facebook, and they're posting stuff out and doing and getting, and they've had good responses. People have commented, and so, yeah, I think we're finally, yeah, we're almost there.
Excellent.
So, yeah, what?
We'll tell you later.
Okay.
Otherwise, that's all I have.
We're gonna sit together
I know,
again.
right?
I'm kidding. This didn't work out too well. In the past, we've had a retreat for a day, but that's, tonight, the meeting probably was a little longer than normal in June, just because we're going over all that stuff. We'll still have a work session in 2 weeks, but prior to that, we have a special meeting just to approve the bills, was that the second one? And we'll just talk about a few things as far as, Q&A with the principals. And that'll be on the 26th, and our next regular meeting is on July 10th at 5:30 p.m. Otherwise, that's all I have. It's going to be a quick summer this year.
Mhm. With that, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thanks, gang.
Thank you, everyone.